for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K,
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He's Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy, and it is the last day of the 2023-2024 regular season for the NHL. Couple things still to be determined, Pierre. So we still have some playoff matchups to be set in the West. The East is set. But just your thoughts on what we might see tonight, and I guess Pierre, just your reaction to this season. I mean, I know it's hard to put everything all in a couple sentences, but to me, I've enjoyed it. I think this has been one of the NHL's best seasons in recent memory, given the records that have been set, the offense that we have seen, the playoff races that have gone down to the wire that will still go on tonight. I've really enjoyed it, Pierre.
It's been great for the top-end teams for sure. There have been some surprises as well. The Vancouver Canucks have been a tremendous surprise. Rick Tocchet has done a tremendous job. Look at the job Barry Trotz and Andrew Burnett have done in Nashville. That's a fantastic story, and they're actually going to play in the first round, which is kind of neat. I think Rick Bowness and Kevin Cheveldayoff have done a really nice job in Winnipeg. We'll see if that holds true when they play Colorado in the first round. Just addressing the West, way under the radar has been the Dallas Stars. It's been a tremendous story all season long. Jimmy Nell, Pete DeBoer, the entire group there deserve a lot of credit. But I think the biggest thing that I take out of this season, the greatness of so many players. Mm-hmm. You know, you see Kucherov with 100 assists. You see Connor McDavid with 100 assists. You see, that had only been done 3 other times before these two guys did it this season. Yeah. And you talk about Bobby Orr, Wayne Gretzky, and Mario Lemieux were the 3 guys that did it before. I mean, that's an amazing accomplishment. Yeah. I think about Austin Matthews at 69 goals in this NHL. Yeah. That's tremendous. Yeah. I can go around the league. I bet if I took every team, you could find 1 or 2 pieces of excellence that are just amazing. Like, I haven't even talked about Nathan McKinnon. Yeah. Yeah. Well, he'll be talked about, I think, soon. I know, but Jimmy, what he did this year is amazing. Yeah, Sidney Crosby, which I know they're not in the playoffs, and I know there are a ton of haters out there on Sid, which is moronic. Yeah. What a season he had. Jealous. That's all. It's jealousy. Why would they be? There's no reason for them to be jealous. None of them have his athletic ability. I know. No reason to be jealous. You're not swimming in the same pool as him. Stop being jealous. Well, let me tell you, it's a great stat. Compliments of NHL PR this morning. I'm sure you're on that email too, when they send out the day's news and the stats and all that. And most points in a season by players aged 36 or older. Sid is now tied for third most with Jean Rattel, 76-77 season, Timo Solani, 06-07 season, and Sidney Crosby this season. They all had 94 points. Johnny Busick at 93 right behind them. And ahead of them is Joe Sakic in 06-07 at 100 and Gordie Howe in 68-69 at 103, which makes it insanity to think that was in 68-69 and he was still playing in the 80s, which is pretty amazing. But it's just, look, Pierre, I think it's fandom. You love your team. You hate guys when they're not on your team, but I'm sure any of those people that are jealous or say bad things about Sid or criticize him on social media, if he was on their team, they'd be singing his praises till the cows come home. That's just how it works. I think Sid knows that as well. The one thing that gets me, though, and I'm sure you'll agree, Pierre, all right, and you've been down at ice level, so you know better than most of us. A lot of people criticize him as a whiner or a baby because he's always trying to get calls or he's always yapping or whatever. Pierre, now, I don't know. Some of them may be too young, but I'm talking about at least people my age and above that watch Wayne Gretzky play. Was he just a quiet soldier? Because that's not what it looks like to me. No, I mean, when you're a targeted player, you're always looking for the benefit of the doubt. Exactly. You get a break. Michael Jordan was a pretty good basketball player. There were a different set of rules for him versus other players in the league. Exactly. And so okay, I don't know why there's this animosity or vitriol towards Sidney. I think it's kind of sad. That being said, it's a marvelous career played by a tremendously hardworking person, and couldn't be happier for him in the season that he had. Feel bad for the Penguins and their fans, but people in Philadelphia feel bad for their players. People in Detroit feel bad for their players. I get it. You know, it wasn't easy. It's a tough run to the final. There's no question to make the playoff. It was a really tough run. All those teams did well. I mean, there's no way people in Philadelphia can't think that there's promise with their group based on what they did this year. There's promise there. There's a ton of promise. Same thing in Detroit.
Yep.
I can't say the same thing about Pittsburgh, though, Jimmy.
No, we know that. We've
I can't. So, I mean, now look in the East. Just let's stay in the East. Buffalo was a major disappointment. They've already relieved Donnie Granato of his duties. Ottawa was a tremendous disappointment. They relieved DJ Smith of his duties a long time ago. They're going to be in the pool trying to catch a big fish as a coaching position. So, you know, those disappointments have already addressed issues.
Yep.
We'll see what else happens, you know, when the silly season starts, which is coming up. Once the regular season's over in the first round and there are a couple upsets, there's always some silly decisions that are made. So we'll see how it all plays out.
And just one more final thing on Sid, too. And for NHL fans in general, I would be grateful to Sid because he's part of the reason the aforementioned races that I discussed went down to the wire. If he doesn't put the Pittsburgh Penguins on his back and turn that East wildcard race upside down, we maybe don't have as much excitement. And the other thing, too, he knew it was coming. You just mentioned it. There's a lot of turnover that's going to happen in Pittsburgh. There's a new era that's going to happen. It's going to be tough. There's a lot of pain coming. And he knew that, and he did everything in his power to give them one last run. And they got that down the wire in the regular season. They unfortunately won't get in the playoffs. But I think it's admirable how he didn't quit to the end, especially after his buddy Jake Gensel was traded. He just turned it up a notch then and went full force until the end. So kudos to him. Kudos to the Penguins for not giving up. And kudos to all those teams you just mentioned as well. Before we get into more NHL talk here, and of course, the one and only Scotty Bowman joining us in a little bit here on the eye test for a second time. I want to mention our new sponsors, Pierre. CBET. You want to go there. It's the best sporting page with the best odds that they can find all their favorite games. The first bet, Pierre, is refunded up to 3,000 Canadian dollars if you use the SICK code. That's SICK code, just like our fun song in the beginning. You go there, you get refunded up to $3,000 Canadian with your first bet. And as we said, you can start going in there, dabbling. They've got the series that are already established. They've got the futures up for that. They've got all the props running already. You can get a ton of stuff going there. And speaking of the playoffs coming up and getting involved with some picks and all that, we want to tell everybody that I'm going to pull it up right now. I got the text from our production crew today, and I will sign up at some point tonight. But I will post the link, guys, on my Twitter handle, and we'll post it as well on the Sick Podcast Eye Test Twitter handle as well. We're doing it through the ESPN Playoff Hockey Challenge. It's the Sick Podcast Network Playoff Pool, Playoff Bracket, whatever you want to call it. That will be up there shortly. I'll get to that right after the show today. Have been a little busy given that my team is getting ready to play the Toronto Maple Leafs, the team that I cover, and some great stuff at practice. I'll get to that in a bit when we talk about that, Pierre, but we'll talk about that. We'll get the bracket going, and tomorrow we can even start to maybe get some picks from you guys in the listeners section, and we'll have some fun with it. But I'm really looking forward to that. Now, Pierre, before we get into broader NHL stuff, I want to tell you I was over at Bruins practice today, and two things I took away from that. One, which I think you just talked about, the silly season starting and some jobs are going to open up, and some of them already have, right? In terms of coaching jobs. Don Sweeney, the general manager of the Bruins, was asked by our good friend Kevin Paul DuPont if some teams have come knocking yet for open coaching or managerial positions with some guys that work under him or with some guys that are working under Jim Montgomery. And he said they have not yet, but when they do, we will gladly give them permission because we do not hold our people back from advancing their careers. And one guy, Pierre, that I've really been thinking about ever since Granato was fired in Buffalo. He already had a short stint there, albeit it was an interim assistant coach job in the 2013-2014 season. But his contract is up with the Bruins. I don't know. He's probably a long shot, but I wonder if they consider Joe Sacco, who I know you know well, Pierre.
Yep.
Tell our viewers and listeners your thoughts on Joe Sacco as a coach.
Real good hockey person, was a tremendous player, was an awesome player at BU. He and his brother David were outstanding players. He had a little trial and tribulation. Obviously, he's a head coach in Colorado as well. The team wasn't great at that time.
No.
So you look at it. I think he's a person that will be a candidate for jobs.
Yeah.
The problem is the pool's pretty deep right now with some really high caliber candidates that have had pretty significant head coaching success. I look at Craig Berube, for numerous jobs, and I would imagine that he will not be on the market long. And I think there are other people out there.
Big names.
Like Claude Julien's got to have a name in there somewhere.
Yeah. Ottawa.
I'm sure Lindy Ruff has his name in some place, including Buffalo.
Yep.
We talked about Joel Quenneville the other day.
If he gets the green light.
If he gets a green light, he goes to the top of the list for everybody.
Oh, for everybody.
So, I mean, it's no disrespect meant to Joseph, talking about Joe Sacco.
Yeah.
But there'll be people ahead of him. But doesn't mean he can't go in and blow up somebody's socks with an interview.
Yeah.
But I do think there are other people that will be ahead of him.
I do think, though, so he may not get a head coaching job. I think he will be out there as a candidate for some assistant jobs. So,
he'll get it. If he wants to be an assistant somewhere else beside Boston.
Yeah. I think he can do that.
I don't think that'll be an issue.
Yeah, and his contract is up. So I'm interested to see what happens there, Pierre. And this is the other question I want to ask you quickly. And this doesn't just apply to Boston, but I'll use them as an example. Jim Montgomery still doesn't have any of his own guys on his staff. Okay, Chris Kelly, Joe Sacco, all those guys were there before him. Now, it's not always the biggest deal to some coaches, right? I mean, they're fine, and it seems that they have got along great by all accounts. From what I know, it's been a harmonious staff that they have there, and both guys have done a great job with Monty. But you just wonder. I mean, we talked about other coaches sometimes. Do they want to get some of their own guys in after they take a job over and they do it for a year? Maybe you want to bring some guys that you're more familiar with. I wonder if that leads to maybe Sacco going elsewhere too. So I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic to watch with the Boston Bruins going forward and with some other coaches in similar positions.
Yeah, I'm not going to play the speculation game like that. I don't think it's appropriate. So what I would say is Ottawa's looking for a head coach. Chris Kelly was a heck of an Ottawa Senator.
Mm-hmm.
He was a heck of an Ottawa Senator. Yeah. So, I would say that they may call and ask for permission just to talk to him. Doesn't mean he's getting the job. Mm-hmm. But, I could see that. He's got a pretty strong relationship with Daniel Alfredson. I would think that Alfredson would have significant input when he's talking to Steve Stales and Michael Landauer in Ottawa and say, hey, there's a guy in Boston that's an elite special teams coach, and he is a great penalty killing coach. We may want to talk to him just to pick his brain and see what he has. And it's great. It's great experience. I can tell you, Jimmy, from experience myself, anytime you're asked to interview for an NHL position, the preparation that if you're really thorough about it and you're serious about the preparation that you do to prepare makes you better in the business.
Oh, yeah.
The more interviews you do at that level, the better you get as a hockey professional. So if you're a young person in the business, you should try to get as many interviews.
Even if you know you probably aren't going to get it.
You're not going to get it. Even if you know you're not going to get it. Yeah. Because eventually it's going to pay off. Eventually it will.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to ask you too, Pierre, and we were talking with Donnie Sweeney today when he spoke, was crediting his pro scouting staff. I mean, look at all the guys they brought in, veteran guys, younger guys that have kind of been castaways elsewhere on 1-year deals or 2-year deals, and giving them a chance. And they had to do that because they had to really fit some puzzles in there under a tight salary cap situation. How much do other teams notice the work of those pro scouts, whether it's the Bruins or other teams that had pro scouts doing a job like that, how much they get noticed and how much does that give them the potential of advancing and finding a higher position elsewhere?
Oh, a lot. I think a lot, especially people that do it every day. You can see people that are working really hard at it, and you meet them on the road and you talk with them. And even though it's not a formal interview, it's a way of deciphering whether somebody really knows what they're doing or not. Yeah. And usually they travel in packs or in herds, pro scouts, just because of the way the schedule is. You got the guys in the East, you got the guys in the Midwest, you got the guys out West. And then you've got a lot of crossover at the pro level. The amateur guys don't cross over as much as they used to. So, you definitely notice. And you notice the ones that are bad too. Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. The same teams seemingly make the same mistakes. I love it when people say the draft is an inexact science. And my retort is, how come the same teams virtually do it right all the time? And there are other teams that traditionally don't do it very well all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a reason why. It's way more of an exact science than people think.
It is. And I think that science, as we've said, is the eye test and scouting in person as much as you possibly can.
I've been, Jimmy, since I started doing the show with you, I've had a lot of different and interesting calls from different people, involved in the game at all different levels. Because when I was on TV, you get in your zone and you do your thing, and you just worry about taking care of the game, the broadcast, and making sure people at home can have fun with it. Yeah. And when you're working as a coach or a management person, you're just locked and loaded in your realm, in your ideology. But now I've talked to a lot of different people, and the one thing that I find really interesting is that people like to complain in hockey a lot. They really do. And even when their team's going well, they like to complain a lot. Mm-hmm. And they always seemingly want to put an agenda out there so that they can,
It's one of those complaint calls on line one, eh?
Yeah, I know. You're on line one. Oh, that's funny. That couldn't come at a better time. Let me try to get rid of it. I apologize.
No problem.
There you go.
No, it's true. And I want to tell our listeners too, and I'm not just saying this because he's my co-host and my friend, but Pierre, I think Pierre is on the phone from the second his eyes open until maybe the second his eyes shut till he goes to sleep, constantly talking hockey, constantly what's going on, how you doing, how you been. It's amazing. And it's been an honor, Pierre, to just see you in action at times doing that. So that's exactly what Pierre's talking about. But the whole hockey world is one small world. And it goes back to everything we're just saying here, where that small world will start to get smaller now as we approach the draft, and then everyone congregates there and you start to see different positions get filled.
It was really cool. I gave this speech last night in South Carolina. 75 people came. There was no more room in the hall where we did it. And I did it with a real good friend of mine, Mark Fusco, the Hobey Baker winner from Harvard University and the 1984 Olympian and former Hartford Whaler defenseman. We had so much fun. What blew me away is there were people that were fans of the Washington Capitals. There were people that were fans of the Toronto Maple Leafs. There were people that were fans of the Philadelphia Flyers, the New York Rangers. There was a potpourri of people from all over the NHL fandom. Uh-huh. And they all were carrying the colors. It was amazing. It was awesome. And we had so much fun. But it shows you that hockey's really starting to get a foothold in a non-traditional hockey market like South Carolina is.
Yep, for sure. Well, listen, we're going to get to Scotty in a bit. He's supposed to call in about 10 minutes. And before he does, I want to talk about, speaking of traveling and all that, and the hockey world. People in the hockey world are always moving, right, Pierre? Mm-hmm. You can say firsthand what it's like to be in the hockey world and have to move so much. And I think, for those out there, we know a lot of scouts, a lot of management are listening, a lot of coaches are watching and listening to us. You should go right to our new sponsor, TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world and around the NHL, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport. Moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind for no obligation, customs or freight quote. Contact them at sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. TCS Customs and Logistics. Glad to have them on board. And there'll be a lot of people
too. They're real hockey people.
They are. And this is going to be a busy season for them. You got to remember, schools are getting out. People are switching jobs. It's that time of year as the summer approaches where that happens. So they're the guys to call for that. Pierre, as I said, we have, I don't care. No offense to any of our other guests. They're all amazing. They're all wonderful. But there's nothing like having Scotty Bowman on. And I'm really excited about this. And I'm very interested to get his take on the upcoming playoffs, the different matchups, how he sees it, the trends. We talked about trends yesterday and trends heading into the playoffs, the trends that he's maybe seen that we should keep an eye on. I'm sure he's going to be a wealth of insight as we prepare for this 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs.
Nobody knows more.
Yeah.
And, even at the ripe old age of 90, he still watches as many games or more games than any video coach in the National Hockey League. I guarantee he's watching more games than any coach
Yep.
You know what's really cool about last night? Toronto lost to Tampa 6-4. They were down 6-1 in the game. And you see what Sheldon Keefe said after the game, Jimmy? I spent most of in between the periods watching the Boston Bruins, which is what we talked about yesterday, getting ready for the Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
He wasn't worried about last night. He was worried about playing the Boston Bruins. So, we talked about Jimmy Montgomery and the puzzle.
Yes.
The pieces of the puzzle. Yeah. As much as he's doing that, Sheldon Keefe's doing the same thing on the other side. And that's what this is. Listen, it's not – I don't know the best way to say it except to say everybody thinks they know what it's like, but until you've actually had to do it, you have no clue what it's like.
Yep. It's true. And you know what? These last few games, when you kind of know you're already in, and, especially a team that knows from experience what they went through last year, that it really – it's great. It's great to have home advantage. It's great for that. It's great to have these accolades and stuff, but really what matters is the Stanley Cup. And you get in, you've got a chance just like anyone else. And I get it, and I understand. I did overreact a little, I'll admit it. One thing I will say is Sweeney did say he understood it like you, and he knows he's been in the game, but he was happy that they did at least pick it up in that third period. He's like, I just wanted some semblance of momentum coming in, some desperation to show that, hey, we're getting into that mode. We're getting in that mindset. So he was glad they at least, came out and outshot them 23-2 in the second period and scored a goal. So that was good.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with that. I couldn't agree more. Toronto has not played well going into the playoffs. William Nylander has not played well. You saw what Sheldon Keefe said. The last 10 games, he basically hasn't been with us.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing.
Last night, too, I guess, from what I was reading. So.
You know who was plugged in, though? Austin Matthews. I mean,
I want him to get it so bad. No shame. 69 goals. Are you kidding me? His first time since Mario. It's unreal.
Pretty special. I remember when Solani was doing his thing, McGillney was doing his thing. I mean, Gretz, obviously, Phil Esposito. I remember as a kid when Phil Esposito popped well over 70 goals one year. But to see Austin, the way he does it, there's not a lot of empty net goals there. Like, he's shooting pucks and he's ripping pucks.
Yep. Yeah. It's unreal. And you know what? A lot of people say, well, he'll just shut it down and he won't be able to do it in the playoffs. I don't think so. This is a mature Austin Matthews. I think he's been through the ringer in terms of playoff hockey. Last year, obviously, is going to give him a lot of confidence in what he can do, that they were able to at least win a round. I think this is going to be a heck of a series. I'll save my predictions for tomorrow when we discuss the pool and we kind of break down every series again. We'll look at that. But I really think this is going to be a good series. And Pierre, it was funny. I was talking to a Bruins management person. I'll leave his name out of it, but I was talking about, he said, yeah, I saw you guys last night, yesterday, what you were saying about Brandon Carlo. And he said, yeah, that's all he said. He goes, yep. Yeah, no, and Carlo was out there fine as can be. It was just a maintenance day for any Bruins fans that were worried. He's back on the ice today. They had him out there with Matt Grzelcyk. They had Lindholm and McAvoy as a top pairing. He is going to be an X factor for the Bruins.
I agree.
Huge X factor. So it should be good. Before we get to Scotty, too, another thing we want to bring up, and we were just talking about it right before we got in the air, the NHL has made it official. The Arizona Coyotes, as they're calling it, 1.0, because there's a good possibility they eventually get back there. Won't be for a while, but they're still saying 1.0. That team is gone, and they are going to Utah next season. No surprise. As we were just talking to our production crew, they said they know some people out there in Utah, and they're excited. And Salt Lake City is feeling the vibe. And I'm happy to hear that. So at least there's a buzz, but I got to tell you, Pierre, I watched that, and you can say and we've already. I'm not going to go ad nauseum about defending that market as a hockey market, because we've already said what we feel. We think it is a hockey market. It just didn't have good ownership. It was tough. It reminded me of when, and people crap on the Atlanta Thrashers and the Atlanta as a city, as a hockey market. And you can say what you want, but all these markets that have lost fans. All right. And I'm not just talking about Quebec, because that's an obvious, right? you still had fans there, Pierre. You still had people who grew as fans, who became accustomed to it, who let the teams become part of their lives. You know, like most hockey fans revolve their schedules around the games. I got to get home. I got to get dinner ready for the kids. I got to be in front of my TV at this time to watch the game. And I felt for him. I saw people crying in the stands. And it was an emotional moment. So, you know, to all you Arizona fans out there, I don't know when it's going to be. I hope you get a hockey team again, but don't give up your love for hockey. Like, keep raising the kids to be players there, because you have a lot of great programs that are producing great players. Namely, one of them we just mentioned, Austin Matthews. So just your thoughts on, you know, seeing another market lose a team, because it's tough. Regardless of what you think of the team, it's tough to watch here.
Yeah, no, it's not easy. By the way, you predicted that game, Arizona over Edmonton. So congratulations, Jimmy.
I won some money for people, I've been told.
Well done. Good job. You were on it. I feel bad for the fans. They have not had a proper building, you know, in terms of location. They've had ownership that have been, you know, probably not as great as it could be. But, you know, you move on, and I'm sure at some point they're going to get a team back.
Yeah.
I'm sure at some point. It's too valuable a TV market for the league. It's a massive TV market. Just like Houston, Texas, at some point I think is going to get a team. It's a massive TV market. Just like I think, even though it was a failed experiment twice in Atlanta, I have to think at some point there's going to be a team in Atlanta. So, you know, the league's always had a history of going back to places. They haven't been afraid to. You know, it's convenient now. People forget the Minnesota North Stars are the Dallas Stars. We had a time in the league where there was no team in Minnesota.
Yep. And that just wasn't right.
That's the state of hockey, man.
Yeah.
So, you know, and the Wild have done a tremendous job. Craig Leopold and his people, after a different ownership group to start, Craig Leopold and his people have done a great job, and they've obviously hit out of the park there. I mean, now they didn't make the playoffs this year, but the fans they go to the games. And it's a relevant business. It's not a shy business where they're struggling. So I think there's a lot of good things going on in the league. You talked about it off the start. Great stories this year. The competitive balance is fantastic. Every year, better and better players are coming into the league. Kids are developing even after they're drafted. So league's in a good spot. There's some things that need to be better. But that's like everything else. When you're at a certain level, you're always trying to get to a level higher. That's just how it works. And
then you know, before we move on from that, Pierre, too, you know, you talk about some markets there. You've mentioned Portland. I agree with you on that. I want to ask you, somebody brought this up to me the other day, and I didn't understand why, but I didn't shoot it down because I don't know anything about it. So that's why I'm going to ask you right now. Someone said to me, why does the league never look into Cleveland? They had a great team there for a long time. Was it the IHL that had it, or?
Yeah, they still have a team there. It's in the American League called the Lake Erie Monsters.
The Lake Erie Monsters, but he was talking about the old days. I think it was the Barons, right?
Yeah, the Cleveland Barons.
Yep. And so, and I'll tell you off air who it was. He played for them. He says, why don't they look into?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think no.
Is that because of where it's located? It's not a TV market. It's not a big enough.
I just think there's other places that they're probably looking at that you wouldn't have to compete against some places you'd have to compete with basketball, but in Cleveland, basketball's substantial.
Here's my question though, and this is what I want to ask you. Is it because Columbus would say hell no?
Well, there's that too. What about Detroit?
Don't step in
Chicago. So there's a lot of different situations where people might, Buffalo.
Yeah, that's close enough too. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not at the ownership level, but I would think there's some people that would be very territorial in terms of protecting their territorial rights.
Is there another city out there that people aren't thinking of that you can think of?
I think, everybody's talked about Kansas City.
I was going to ask.
I think there'd be one there, but I look at, I think again, Portland, Oregon has had an amazing history with hockey, much like what Seattle had in the old Western Hockey League and the Western Professional League.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bettman, I know, has got great tentacles into Portland because of his time with the NBA. Houston, Texas, I talked about that. I think
that's a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer. I really believe that.
Yeah.
But I can't think of, I'll give you an example. Charleston's been unbelievable in the East Coast Hockey League. Savannah, Georgia is putting up huge numbers.
Yep.
Jacksonville, Florida is putting up massive numbers. These are all East Coast Hockey League teams that they're drawing, 9,000 to 12,000 people a night. They're doing unbelievably well at the gate. But could that really translate to NHL? I don't know if it can. I just don't know if it can.
Yeah. The other thing too, you don't want to just you have to be strategic. You have to really, given what just happened in Arizona, I'm sure the NHL wants to know exactly what they're going into. You can't tell the future. Obviously, you can't say 100% it's going to work, but they're going to make sure as much as they can that it's going to work, I would think. So,
yeah, no, they're not going into a bad spot, I don't think.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. We are trying to get Scotty right now. I'm waiting for a text just that he's good to go. So we'll keep you posted on that. Yeah. How about Pierre, since, just in case he gets in, because we might be up against the clock and I want to keep running as long as we can with Scotty.
Yep.
How about we take a few questions right now? Once Scotty's ready, we'll go to him. Yep. All right, let's line him up. What do we got? A to Z me. Sad way for the Caps to make the playoffs. Can't blame Torts, but I have to think he probably took some extra pleasure in controlling the other team's fate. Just a hunch. Look, A to Z me, you are one of my favorite question askers here, but I 100% disagree. Torts doesn't play for those other teams. He coaches his team. And that's his only objective, is to get his team into the playoffs and do whatever he feels or deems necessary to do it. There was no ulterior motives. He could give a bleep less what's going on. He just wants to get the Flyers in. So I respectfully disagree.
I respectfully disagree as well. I think John just wasn't informed soon enough. I really do. I mean,
yeah.
Was it an early pull? Yeah, it was an early pull.
He said he actually got it like seconds after he pulled.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So It's just bad luck. It looks bad. The optics aren't good, but he's not doing that on purpose.
No,
right. No way.
He's made it pretty clear he doesn't care about anything else.
I've talked to him about, he doesn't worry about what the other team does. He worries about what his team does.
Yeah.
That's how
he doesn't worry about what I say, you say, the media say. Like, it's just it.
No.
So, all right, next question. Bill Van Vagel. And I apologize if I didn't pronounce that right. When drafting a player, how much does a team prioritize leadership, locker room presence? For example, if a skilled player hasn't led his junior college team to the playoffs, does that factor in selecting someone?
It can. A lot of teams really prioritize these interviews that the kids are doing it now. When we were doing it, it was not nearly as refined an interview process as it is now. A lot of teams hire sports psychologists to put together questions to ask the kids just to see where they are. The one thing I will say, you want players that are really good on the ice. Scotty had a great line. If the guy's so good in the room, tell him to stay there because he's no good on the ice. You know what I mean? But I do think character matters a lot, and the interview process really helps identify character.
All right, next question. What do we got here? 87 Eagles. Hey, guys, will Vinny LeCavier ever take a bigger role with the Habs?
I don't know if he does or doesn't. I think he's, happy with what he's been doing right now. And obviously, Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon have done tremendous work. They've, extended their coach, Marty St. Louis, for another 3 years. I think that's great. So I don't know what Vinny wants to do or doesn't want to do. But I'm sure if he wants more of a significant role, if he asks, he'll probably get it.
Yep. All right, next question. Randy Workman. Jimmy, do you think the Bruins are happy to avoid Tampa? Yes. I'll just leave it at that. All right, next question. Jason Logan. Hey, Jake. With Wayne Gretzky building a new rink in Florida, you think they could bring another team?
Where would you go? Jacksonville? I don't know.
I don't think that's a good market.
I just know. So I don't think Orlando can do it. They've been in the NBA for a long time. And I think because of the fact they've got such a wealthy owner, Mr. DeVos, I think that's one of the reasons why it survives in Orlando. I just don't know if they can do it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. All right, what do we got? Next question. Danko, there's always a hot goaltender to lead a team. I'd bet on Shesterkin in the East and Ottinger in the West. I think those are very safe bets. And I think you should go to CBET and put that bet in.
Well, I'm with you on Ottinger. And I don't think it'll be a goaltending problem if the Rangers lose. I think it'll be an injury problem on defense.
Yeah.
If that's what happens to them. But I think Florida, I think Bobrovsky can get on a roll too.
Again,
if he does, I think Florida could be really dangerous this playoff season.
it's crazy to think, hey, it's time. It wasn't Bobrovsky starting the playoffs.
No, I know.
It was the man who almost got the Red Wings in again. Did it again this year.
I know. It's amazing.
All right, next question. A to Z me, first round upset. Who do you guys got? I'm going to save those for tomorrow, A to Z me, but I've got some, trust me. And I think there's one, if you've been watching, I'll just say they reside in the Western Conference that Pierre and I have already kind of been hinting at. So we'll leave it at that. All right, next question. Big Bill. Pierre, can you see the Habs drafting the best player available before need? Meaning if there's a D-man available, they'll draft a D-man over a needed forward.
Well, where they're probably going to pick, they're going to have a choice of either a defenseman or a forward. So I think it'll come down to which player they think is the best. I personally think they need scoring. I think that's something they need to address. And I don't know if they're going to plan to do that through trade acquisition or through draft. But honestly, where they're going to be picking, they're going to have two good players available for them, either on defense or forward.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Pierre. And it's an interesting question. We'll talk about it later. I have an idea on that. All right, next question. Mitch Balin. Hey guys, what do you think the change with such good showings from Mayu and Hudson?
I think we kind of talked about this for the whole year.
Mitch, we've been trying to tell you. Like these guys are coming. They're here now. Enjoy it. Embrace it.
It should be so exciting. I know a lot of people, like when I said at the beginning of the year, Lane Hudson's going to remind you a lot of, a really good player by the name of Adam Fox. And people are like, no way. Now I'm seeing people are doing comparables through analytics on Lane Hudson versus Adam Fox, and Lane Hudson is winning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on. No, they're both very good players. The Canes have put themselves in a very good position going forward with the depth they have on defense. Yeah,
and too, Pierre, I heard you again with Mitch the other day when you guys were talking about just the way he works the line, and he's so confident and poised along the line there. That's Adam Fox. I mean, that's one of his trademarks. So You nailed it on that. All right, next question. Brand new. Pierre, have you got any good Mickey Redmond stories?
No, just, you know what? I remember when we did a lot of games in Detroit early on in the NBC contract, he would always come by, and he couldn't have been more gracious. I know he's got some dietary issues like Jimmy has with celiac, so he does a lot of cooking on the road. I think his own cooking, or he cooks before.
I heard that.
But no, just the only thing I can say about Mickey, every time I've ever been around him, he was always a gentleman to me, and for anybody I worked with, he was tremendous. So, I have nothing that I could say that wouldn't be positive.
All right. We got some interesting news here on Scotty, Pierre.
Okay.
He just got back to me. He said, I really apologize, but I'm stuck in traffic.
That's okay.
And he goes, I don't want to do this while I'm driving. It's too,
No.
So he said, can we do it at 5:15? But we're going to be off by then. Do we do a 2-guest show tomorrow?
Yes, we have him on tomorrow.
All right. We're going to have him on. Let's have him on the top of the show. And by the way, if you haven't seen, I tweeted it last night. Also, Jack Edwards, who just announced his retirement as Bruins Nesson play-by-play man, will join us tomorrow. So all of a sudden, tomorrow just became a killer show. So, all right, that's fine. We got plenty of questions to go through here.
Just do me a favor, Jimmy. Just let him know that not to be stressed out. Yep. That we'll get him on tomorrow.
We'll do that. Why don't you take the next question here?
Yeah, I'll take the next question. You just make sure he's calm. Is Dougie Hamilton a realistic ceiling for Mayu or too high? Feel like I see a lot of Dougie in his game. That's from X-Man Key. I hope I got that right, X-Man Key. There's some. Dougie has probably a better shot than Logan, and maybe makes a better first pass than Logan. I think Logan probably plays a little bit more thump, especially in contained situations. But there's some similarities. I would say Dougie Hamilton's got more offense, or has had more offensive upside, and maybe might have a little bit better physical upside. But no. Both good players. I think Mayhew's just scratching the surface. He's going to be good. Thanks for doing that, Jimmy.
No problem. We multitask here on the eye test. Teamwork. All right, let's go. What do we got? Kakook 69. Who wins the Calder Cup this year? Any faves? Pierre, before you say, I want to just say, I think it's a lot closer race than people might have expected when we entered this season. So that's all I'll say. I do think it goes to Bedard, but I think
No,
it's
Calder Cup's the American Hockey League Championship. The Calder Trophy is what you're talking about.
Yeah. So who wins the Calder Cup?
I'll tell you what. You take the Calder Trophy, and I'll take the Calder Cup.
All right, go for it. I'll say Calder Trophy. You say Connor Bedard, Calder Trophy.
Okay, I'm going to take the Calder Cup, and I'm going to say the Hershey Bears are the defending champs. I think they're going to be really tough to beat, but I think in Dallas, the Texas Stars could be a team that might surprise some people.
A double whammy, maybe?
Maybe.
NHL and NHL.
They just signed a really good player out of Northeastern, a kid named Rakovian. He's had a really good start to his pro career down there, and I think he's a player that brings a ton of energy and offensive upside. So I'm going to say two possible teams that I think have a chance to win, one in Hershey and one down in Texas.
Well, one thing I'll look up, I'll find it tomorrow. Who's the last NHL team to win it the same year as their AHL team? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, but I'm going to tell you that Carolina came real close with Chicago one year when that was their farm team.
When they 2006?
Yeah, no, it was later than that.
Okay.
Carolina, I forget the exact year, but I think they did. But to say that the double dose, I can't, because Vegas won last year, but Henderson didn't win. It was Hershey won. So.
Yeah.
Coachella, by the way, one other thing, dark horse, Coachella to win too. Coachella. Seattle's farm team. Seattle.
Speaking of music, great music festival there. One thing I want to just check quick, Pierre. Oh, no, it was Toronto in 18. I was wondering if Hershey did it in 18, the same year as the Caps, because Hershey's always usually at the top. But it was the Toronto Marlies in 2018. All right, let's go. Next question. Brand new. Who's your favorite free agent power forward type guy this off season? Good question.
Good question. That requires research.
Yep. We will have an answer for you. Ask us again Monday.
That's a really good question. It is.
Yeah.
It just requires
we got to start thinking about that too. It's coming.
The one thing I'd say is Carolina is a team to watch when it comes to contracts that have to be renewed. To say that they have dominant power forwards, no, but do they have big guys that can play? The answer is yeah, they do.
Yep, for sure. And RFA is coming too. All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel. Pierre, who is one or two players you scouted early, liked them, but didn't keep close enough ties with, and then another team snagged them?
Oh, well, it wasn't that another team snagged them. We just took – no, that's a great question. Okay. I can go back early in my career. Let's just think the 90 draft. We traded our second pick to Calgary for Joey Mullen. But there was a player that I really liked, and the Rangers got him. His name was Dougie Waite. And I told Scotty, and we were going into the draft, I said, if we could ever find a way to get an extra pick, this Dougie Waite kid would be really good for us. And obviously, Dougie had an amazing career. So there's one that's like that. Trying to think, we didn't really strike out, but the year that Pittsburgh took Marcus Naslund, I spent a lot of time overseas that year, and we took we ended up taking Naslund, but I really liked Kovalev. I really liked Alex Kovalev, and he went to New York too. So it's kind of interesting. Two guys that I liked early on, they both ended up being Rangers, right next to our picks when we were in Pittsburgh.
Damn Rangers! All right, next question.
Listen, Kovalev ended up being a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and Naslund ended up at the end of his career playing with the New York Rangers.
It's crazy. They well-traveled in those days. All right, next question. Randy Workman. Pierre, do you think Stamkos stays or goes next season?
I think if he gives him a bit of a hometown discount, I would be surprised if he left. Steven really likes it there. He's a really proud guy. I knew, and Jimmy knew this, when he went through the previous unrestricted free agency. He told me in November of that year, he said, Pierre, I'm not going anywhere. Like, people are going to speculate I'm leaving. I'm staying here.
I know. The whole world thought he's going to Toronto.
And I kept saying it on Melnick's show, on Mitch's show, and, people probably thought I was deranged. But no, I mean, I knew just because the player had told me he wasn't leaving. He wanted to stay. And the way that was handled, by the way, that was I've studied that negotiation a lot. Stevie Eiserman did that with Julian Brisebois as his assistant, and Donnie Meehan and Patrick Morris, the people at Newport Sports Management, they did that on Steven's behalf. You never read any noise. You never heard any noise.
Yep.
It was just done really quietly, really professionally. I'm sure behind closed doors there was some yelling and screaming and some acrimony, but it was done really professionally. And it's a good example of how to do a high-profile contract without having to do it in the public eye. It was really well done. It was really, really well done.
And I don't know this. I'm guessing it's going to be the same way, and it could be going on now. Who knows? But all I know is they're going to do it the right way there. That's how they do it. So great ownership too.
Listen, Mr. Vinnick, I talked about this in my talk last night here in South Carolina. I talked about Mr. Vinnick and what an impression he made on me, and I'm sure Steve Eiserman, a lot of other people, Julian Brisebois, John Cooper. He's an amazing owner. He's a great person. If you are a resident of Tampa, and let's say you were there 20 years ago, and you see Tampa today and you go, wow, I live in an unbelievable community. Jeffrey Vinnick's fingerprints are all over what's gone on in Tampa. He's an amazing owner. He's just a special, special guy. He really is. He's a special guy.
Did you ever go there, Pierre, before there was a team? Did you ever go through there?
Yeah, I went to Busch Gardens once with a bunch of college guys.
Okay.
That was a long time ago. That was a long time ago.
I'm just wondering what it was like. I mean, because I've never really known it in my lifetime.
I got to tell you, Jimmy, I coached in the old fairgrounds, the Tampa Fairgrounds. You know, and the guys were working on their sticks under palm trees back in the day because there wasn't enough room in the hallway by the dressing room. That's when you had wood sticks and guys would torch them up to curve them. And they'd be doing it outside. So Tampa had a distinct home ice advantage. I would say home field advantage, but it was a home ice advantage.
That's good stuff. All right, next question. The Puck Bunnies. How many good rounds would PLD need to change the perception on his season? That's a great question. I think not just his season, on the last few years.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I don't want to beat the kid up, but
no, we're not beating him up, but I think it's a fair question.
No, it's a very good question. I'm just trying to pick the right words. I mean, I don't know. I saw him play a couple games in Montreal. I'm just telling you.
Mm-hmm.
He was so good in those games.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I got to just tell you, Jimmy, it was to the point where I was going, if this guy keeps this up, nobody's going to be talking about a lot of the other young players because he's big, he's fast, he's got a flair for the dramatic. And, you know, he's a good-looking kid and he's bilingual. There was a lot going on there. And then I don't know what happened. Something happened. I don't know. But he's not the same player. He's just not the same player.
One thing he has going for him to kind of just get away, reshape himself on and off the ice, do whatever he's going to do, Pierre. I think what's helping him and helping less of these questions lately is the emergence of Byfield. I mean, people are
so the one thing LA does a lot right. Luke Robitaille, Rob Blake, they do a lot right there. Yeah. They really do. And one of the things that they do extremely well,
developing
internal development of players in Tampa or in LA is outstanding.
Awesome.
They make
Martinetti for that too.
Look at Mikey Anderson on the. I'm just using him as one example.
Yep.
You watch Roy on defense. Like all these guys, the internal development in LA on players is outstanding. They deserve a lot of credit there. They really do.
And for blocking out the noise, Byfield, another guy, Pierre, who you stood by, and people that know the game. Patience. Don't give up on young kids so fast.
I saw that kid play so much before he went to Major Junior because my son used to play against him.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, whoa, this guy's going to be something else. Like he's the whole package. Even at that age, you could just see he was so much bigger and stronger. You just knew it was going to take time for him to mature, but there was so much to like. And now you see and you're like, ooh, this guy's good. He's a really good player.
All right, next question. Danko again. With CBA up in 2 years, does Gary start to be part of that one? Spin-off question. Who could be a couple candidates for the next NHL commish when that time comes? I don't even want to go there.
I'll go there. I'll take the commissioner part.
About that. Yep.
I'd be absolutely shocked if Bill Daly wasn't the next commissioner of the National Hockey League. He's done an amazing job as Gary's lieutenant for a long period of time. I think he's a really clear voice on all things hockey and all things legal. He's a really, really brilliant legal person. So I could see Bill stepping in there, and I don't think they really want to deviate from the Bettman protocols, which have been, I think, if you're an owner in the league, I'll just use Jeremy Jacobs as an example. He was in the league when it was a $500 million a year business. Now it's a $5.7 billion a year business, not million.
Look at what these franchises are.
$5.7 billion. I was sitting in the Board of Governors meeting a few years ago when Commissioner Bettman congratulated Jeffrey Vinnick to say your franchise that you purchased at X is now valued at over $1 billion. I was in the room when you said it. That's real.
Yeah.
That happened on Commissioner Bettman's watch. And the other thing that happened on Commissioner Bettman's watch, which is really positive, and people need to know this, a lot of these Canadian teams are thriving right now. They're not winning Stanley Cups yet, but they're thriving at the gate. I can just tell you right now, Jimmy, if it weren't for the Canadian Assistance Program that Gary Bettman helped create, this would not be happening.
No.
There might not be as many teams in Canada as you think.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that people like to go after the commissioner, but I can tell you that he's done a lot of good things too.
Pierre, people are not going to like what I'm about to say. And I want a team in Quebec just as much as anyone else. But for those who want to, crap all over Gary Bettman for a team not being there and them leaving to go to Colorado, he did a lot behind the scenes that I haven't seen enough people write about to keep them there. He tries his hardest to keep teams in markets he believes can prosper. But there comes a point, as we just saw today, it just becomes unfeasible. You just can't do it. And don't always be so quick to blame the commissioner for a team failing. There's so many other things that go into that. And he doesn't want that on his track record. He's trying hard to keep these things afloat. Just sometimes it doesn't work out. And there's a lot of outside circumstances. It's not like, I want Canadian teams to lose their team. I want them on a – he never said that. He never wanted that. So just keep that in the back of your mind when, and I'm speaking specifically to people in Canada, when you blame Bettman for that.
Okay.
All right, next question. Pierre, sorry for asking so many questions, but do you think the Leafs need to trade their forwards? Randy, don't worry about it. To get to the next step in the playoffs?
I think they're going to have to trade one of their high-end forwards to get better on defense. The answer is yes. I watch their farm team, the Marlies, a lot. I think they've got a couple good prospects down there. There's one guy that's already been up and played really well for them, Marshall Rafai, kid out of Harvard, undrafted free agent, done a real good job being transparent. I work with him in the summer, and he played really well when he was called up. He's had a good year in the American League, but they're not overwhelmingly deep in prospects. That's why today, Jimmy, the Leafs signed Cade Weber out of Boston University.
I'm going to bring that up. Yep.
And, I've known Cade's body of work for a long time. Watched him play prep school in Boston at Rivers, watched him play in Penticton before he got hurt, watched him play at WAC at Boston University. I think because of his size, he's going to help Toronto. I just worry about his injury situation and mobility, but I think he's going to help Toronto. But Toronto desperately will need to get upgraded on defense, and I think they'll have to use a forward to do that.
And by the way, too, Pierre, and the guys better than I, but they've done a good job of really dipping into the college market and scouting.
Well, that's where I think, we have a lot of Montreal people that listen to the show and watch. I think that's going to be the next big thing for Montreal. Mm-hmm. The relationships that Kent has at the college level because his boys play. The relationship that Jeff Gordon has because his son's playing at Boston University. I think that's going to be the next big place where Montreal is going to go for free agents because kids don't mind. Kids aren't married. They don't mind. They want to play, and they see opportunity in their agency opportunity. They're going to go. They're not going to be afraid. A guy with a family that's never lived in Quebec or never lived in Canada, as a free agent, I think they're going to have a hard time getting that player to go.
That's a great point. Great point. All right, next question. Chris Blue Shirts. Hey, guys, question for both of you. Who would be on your golf foursome? Players, coaches, trainers, management included. Great. Pierre, I'll let you take this. I don't do much golfing, amazingly so.
Oh, I like to golf.
I know.
I'd have, no matter what, that I was his roommate or not, I'd have Scotty Bowman. I would have Mario Lemieux. I would have Doug Harvey. and I'd have Jean Rattel.
Like it.
I mean, to me, Jean Rattel is one of the greatest gentlemen I've ever had the privilege of meeting. Mario is, you never coach a player like that. You just maintain him. And I've seen our relationships growing ever since, I stopped coaching and he stopped playing. So I'm a huge fan of him as a person, as a family man, as a husband, and as a friend. And I see what he does for so many people. Remember we had Phil Bourque on, and Phil was almost in tears because of what Mario had done for him. And Phil's not the only one. Trust me, there are a lot more.
I know one too. So,
I'm really bullish towards him, and Scotty's what he's meant to me and my life and to my family's life. I'll always be indebted. So I love golfing with him. And I heard so many Doug Harvey stories as a kid growing up. I'd want to spend some time with him on the golf course.
Well, I'll be down at the pub waiting for you guys after. Don't worry. All right, next question. Kook69, do you think Owen Beck can make the team out of camp this year? AHL?
Yeah.
There's so much depth right now. I don't know.
I don't think he's making the team out of camp. I know he's putting up good numbers and all that. I think it'll be AHL, but that's not a knock. That's just part of the step of being a pro, and I could see that, 100%. But I don't see him making the team out of camp next year. I'd be really surprised.
All right, and by the way, our production crew in Montreal telling us they have spoken to Scotty. He is confirmed for tomorrow, so we will have Scotty Bohm tomorrow. All right, next question. Steve Peterson, do you think Calgary trades up if they need to? His draft ranking keeps going higher so they can grab.
They might.
I think so.
They might. It's a great question, Steve. Really good point. The relationship with Craig Conroy and Jerome is really strong. It's really, really strong. I could see that happening. It's a great point. It's something I don't think too many pundits have really brought up yet, but it's really, I think there's some merit there to that point. I really do.
Well, not only you getting a good player, but you're also connecting with your market again, which they need to do right now. So.
But let's be totally frank about this. After the third pick, a lot of these guys, Jimmy, aren't going to be ready for a while. I mean, I know everybody's getting hot and bothered, and we're trying to go out to the draft. But this is a draft that's a little different. It's not stockpiled full of you can't miss guys.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I agree. All right, next question. Brand new. Any restrictions on a team to how many contracts they can buy out? Yes.
Well, you can only have 50 contracts, so and buyouts are limited. But it's 3 or 4. So yeah. Yep.
All right. Next question. Kook69, Memorial Cup winner, Kelly Cup winner.
Well, I can't do the Memorial. I know London Knights are steamrolling Kitchener right now. They're up 3-0. So
who hosts this year, Pierre? Who hosts this year, Pierre? By the way,
I don't know. I don't know. I apologize. I don't know who's hosting. In terms of the Kelly Cup, that's for the East Coast Hockey League. Jacksonville's really good. Adirondack's really good. So there's some good teams, and I know out west in Idaho they got some good teams. So I mean, I can't really predict a winner for either one, but I know a lot of there's some good teams at all those levels. There really are.
Kook69 says it's Saginaw that's hosting.
Saginaw's hosting?
Yep.
So they're in no matter what.
Yep. So they're hosting. And then also Randy Workman saying that Conroy did an interview recently about the draft, and he specifically mentioned the Gindler. So there you go.
So I just know from being around them, Craig and Jerome are really, really tight. They're really tight.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Puck Bunnies. Can the Oilers waive Corey Perry when they make the finals? I'm only 3/4 joking.
Why would you do that? Well,
Puck Bunnies, we love you.
You know what's interesting, though? Could you imagine? I'm just thinking out loud. Corey's played in a lot of different places, and obviously he's played really well in a lot of places too. If they ever played Dallas, like an Edmonton-Dallas series.
I know.
Be interesting.
Yeah. He has a habit of being on teams that go on deep runs. So, All right, next question. Jeffrey B. Got any stories from the legend Doc Emmerich that weren't mentioned when he was a guest on your show? I don't. I'm sure Pierre does, but
but they're all good. I mean,
yeah.
most of them, I remember we were doing the Summer Olympics in London, and every day we would go out for a libation after we were done, and he would always consume a thing called London Pride, and he still jokes with me. He says, "Have you had any pride today?"
Are you feeling proud?
No. And then one time we went to the Tower of London together. I thought that was really cool. And Doc's a major historian. Like, he's really good at history. So we did. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff we did. I remember probably the most sad I've ever seen Doc was we were walking through the Olympic Park in Sochi.
That's right.
We got there early, and they were shooting the stray dogs in the street. And Doc really is an animal rights activist and lover. Like, he loves animals, and he really takes care of them. I got a huge farm up in Port Huron, Michigan. And I remember once we were walking and we saw them shoot a dog, and I was like, oh boy. And Doc was so upset. And you could just see the kindness in the man's heart. He really bothered him a lot.
Hey, speaking of libations, Pierre, look at that. My buddies the Mahones took the Guinness emblem and used it for their shirt. They're an Irish punk band out of Montreal.
There you go.
All right, next question. Kook69, who is your dark horse in the playoffs this year? We'll save it for tomorrow.
We talked about this the other day, though. I mean,
come on, guys, pay attention. We've been trying to give you hints here.
But it depends on how you quantify a dark horse.
Yeah, I look at a dark horse as someone who's not quite a Cinderella, just going to come out of nowhere.
Like, is Winnipeg a dark horse? Is Winnipeg a dark horse? Okay.
Yeah.
They could.
Nashville would be a Cinderella in my eyes.
They're Cinderella.
Yeah. Washington would be a Cinderella.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's how we look at it. So Winnipeg, guys, is a team we really like. All right. Next question. By the way, too, for all you people, when you go to CBET, you'll notice, I think the odds makers are starting to think like Pierre and I, too. It's not a big margin in terms of the favorites for that series. I was surprised at that, but must be the Hellebuck effect. All right. Let's go. What do we got? Randy Workman, Pierre, do you think teams are beginning to pick the best player over need? Kind of what we were talking before.
You know what, Randy? They've been doing that for a while. I mean, not every team's, but most teams have. The shocking one, and it's not to take a run at Mark Bergevin and his staff, when they took Kotkaniemi instead of Brady Tkachuk.
Yeah.
That was the one that I was like, organizational need and player talent, it's all Tkachuk. You don't have a power forward. You haven't had one in forever. Can you imagine where this team would be if they would have taken Brady Tkachuk?
Yeah. Pierre, you ever notice, I'm sure you do, so it's kind of a rhetorical question, but when teams will say, and when they're trying to explain, a pick that maybe isn't going the way, well, we did what we're supposed to. We took the best player on the board. And it's like, I don't know. I just feel like it's like a built-in excuse when things don't go right. Like I see teams say that too much, and I'm with you. You take what you need. And just because 28 other teams don't think that's the right player for them, that doesn't mean he's not the right player for you.
I've told you this a long time ago. The best scouts, they don't run with the herd.
Exactly.
They run by themselves.
Yep.
They might hang around in hotel lobbies. They don't run with the herd.
And you know what else you always tell me too? The best GMs listen to those scouts.
Yep, they do.
That's another key. All right, I think we're done with questions. We have any more? Okay, one more. Here we go. Ryan B., do you think there's a chance that Monahan re-signs in Montreal after this?
It's a good point. It's a fair question. I'd be really surprised.
Let's see how it goes in Winnipeg. Maybe he wants to re-sign there.
And I also think there might be some other places for him.
Yep.
And we talked about this a little before. Taxation issues are real in Canada in particular, but in the province of Quebec. And so I'm not sure as players get older, that's going to be a likely landing spot. And that's why I'm saying, and I use this not in a mean way, in a positive way, I think teams like Montreal need to redefine how they evaluate free agents, because they're free agents in college, they're free agents from major junior, they're free agents in the NHL, they're free agents from Europe. Which ones do you think are more likely to come to play for you? And I would say right now, European kids wouldn't be afraid, and college kids aren't afraid.
Yeah. I think the only thing he's hinting at there, Pierre, is just the the familiarity.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I get that, but that doesn't mean they're going to pay him what he thinks he's worth, and then he's going to get taxed, and he's going to be mad. And
I'm out. No, we'll see what happens.
But it's a great question.
I think he's got value though too. I mean, there were a lot of teams that wanted him on the market, from what I heard. Pierre, like he's a valuable player. He's a good depth center to have. Good guy.
If he's your number 3 center and playing on your second power play, you got a good team.
You got a deep team.
You have a good team.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, listen, we will get Scotty tomorrow. Things happen. That's just the way it goes in this business. And Scotty loves coming on here. So we appreciate him checking in with us there. And, of course, we'll have Jack Edwards for a quick stint as well, talk about his retirement. So it's going to be a busy day tomorrow. I'll give you – Pierre doesn't do picks, but I will give you picks for the playoffs.
Can I tell you why I don't do picks?
Because you're a smart man.
No.
And people aren't going to hang them over your head when you're wrong.
No. It's not for that. I remember doing picks probably like, I don't know, it was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And a coaching friend of mine, I was doing the game. I was doing a series. And he looks at me and he starts shaking his head. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? He said, can I talk to you? So I said, sure. So I met him, I don't know, in the hallway outside his dressing room. He goes, why did you not pick my team to win? Like, I'm taking that personal. And I started thinking to myself, I said, you know what? I'm doing the game. It's probably not appropriate if I'm picking winners and losers. And I just, from that point on, I just stopped doing it publicly. Do I do it, internally, like with you? You know who my picks are. Yeah. But I don't do it publicly because I don't feel comfortable when guys get, like, coaching friends of mine or management friends of mine get angry.
Yep, I know. I understand. And you know what? Maybe I should heed that advice as well, because I've been in your shoes. You remember the 2011 Canadiens Bruins series?
I do.
Okay, so I picked Montreal in 7. And so I get in the locker room and it's mayhem. But Sean Thornton made sure to come over to me and say, well, you got the games right. Good luck next time. These players don't know who's picking who. They know.
They do. They definitely pay attention.
And they use it as motivation, man. I mean, they do. They do. All right. Well, great show. Thanks to our production crew. Thank you to you, Pierre, as always, my friend. And when are you heading back north, Pierre?
Saturday.
All right. Well, same with my daughter. She's down there as well.
Saturday. And then a lot of hockey stuff starting Saturday.
Flying or driving?
Flying. So I'll be ready for
the weather's a little shaky this weekend.
But I'll be ready I'll be there in time for the games. The games that matter start Saturday.
Real season starts. I'm very excited. Let's buckle up. We'll tee it all up tomorrow with Scotty Bowman and Jack Edwards here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.